Oh, started.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the World Hepatitis Alliance Hepatitis B functional cure. What does it mean and how close are we to reaching it? So as usual, we're just going to wait a few moments to let everybody in. We've had an incredible number of people sign up to this, so not surprisingly. So we're just going to wait a few minutes just to let people come in. The numbers are slowly creeping up. Okay, I think as people are coming into the room, I think I'm going to do going to just start to give the little overview, the normal welcome, and just to remind people as you're coming in that the webinar is being recorded, so there will be an opportunity to see it afterwards. Welcome, as I said, to our webinar. It's no surprise, and we've had a lot of people sign up for it. Hepatitis B functional cure, what does it mean and how close are we reaching it? Are we to reaching it, sorry. We know that there's new innovations are bringing us closer than ever to functional cure for hepatitis B, and this could be transformative for people living with it. So given the new advancements in research, the World Hepatitis Alliance is hosting this webinar to provide an overview of what functional cure is and the science driving its development. We're going to explore the types of treatment that are currently in the clinical pipeline and what achieving a functional cure could mean for people living with hepatitis B. So just to flag up, as always, the webinar is also being simultaneously translated into Spanish and French. The translation instructions are on the screen. You can see there on that little circle, you press the interpretation button and choose which language that you would like to listen in. So I think it's French and Spanish today. Welcome. Before we move on, I do need to thank our supporters for the webinar. We've got Aligos Therapeutics, JSK and Virion Therapeutics. You can see it there. I'm sure I haven't Aligos. Apologies if I pronounced it wrong. Yeah, so today we have Dr. Thomas Tu, who is going to be talking about the science behind the hepatitis B functional cure. Dr. Thomas Tu is an associate professor for the Westmead Institute for Medical Research, co-founder, director and chair of Hep B Voices Australia, and founder and executive director of hepbcommunity.org. Also, I have great pleasure because Thomas is also the regional board member for the World Hepatitis Alliance. He sits on the board as the WIPRO representative. Just a little heads up that it is late at night in Australia. I know it's different time zones everywhere across the world. For me, I'm all right. It's kind of like 10 o'clock in the morning, but for you, Thomas, it's slightly later. So I want to say thank you for being with us and for sharing your expertise with this. You're going to give us an overview of the hepatitis B functional cure, the types of treatments that are currently being developed. So I'm going to hand over to you and I look forward to hearing from you. Just a reminder to everybody, there's a chat box. Please, if you want to write in the chat box, feel free. Also, there is, once Thomas has shared his presentation, there's a couple of questions, pre-written questions that I have, and then we're going to open it up for Q&A. There's a Q&A box. Please feel free to write in that box. Or if you want to wait, you can just put your hand up later and you can talk directly once Thomas is finished. Welcome again, and I'm going to hand over to you, Thomas. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction, Rachel. I just want to bring everyone's attention to the webinar chat where we have advertised a the World Hepatitis Alliance's new fact sheet about functional cure, and it's nice simultaneous reading material for the presentation that I'll be giving today, tonight, wherever you are. So I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully that comes up for everyone. So as Rachel mentioned, my name's Thomas Tu. I'm the WIPRO Western Pacific Region representative board member of the WHA, and I myself live with hepatitis B as well. So I've not only got a scientific background as being a group leader of the viral hepatitis pathogenesis group, so I'm a molecular biologist by trade, but also have lived experience as well, and that gives me a bit more of a multifaceted view of hepatitis B. But tonight we're talking about hepatitis B cure, the challenges and prospects coming up. So every hepatitis B sort of talk needs to just mention how important hepatitis B is. Chronic hepatitis B affects a lot of people around the world, more than 250 million worldwide. And in our region, where I represent the Western Pacific, represents one of the most, the region with the most cases in the world at 115 million. So most people with chronic hepatitis B get it through birth or small cuts during childhood, and it's usually asymptomatic. And so what that means is there's not a lot of impetus for people to go to the doctor and get tested. And as such, only really about 10% of people really know they have chronic hepatitis B. If left untreated, chronic hepatitis B, it can cause severe outcomes such as liver cancer or liver cirrhosis, and this causes a lot of deaths per year. And it's currently incurable. And so this really is the rationale for tonight's talk is talking about what are the scientific and sort of industry advances in the field to combat this incurable condition and develop a cure for all of these people. So when we talk amongst scientists and clinicians about hepatitis B, you'll no doubt sort of hear a lot of these terms of E antigen positive, chronic hepatitis B, surface antigen, E antigen, Hep B DNA, ALT, all of these sorts of things. And the takeaway point is it's very complicated. It's complicated because we really want to be precise when we're talking about hepatitis B and trying to navigate the very subtle issues around hepatitis B and trying to target it. But how I like to explain it to most people and to you tonight is by way of analogy. So we'll start at the very start. What is hepatitis B? Well, it's a virus, and viruses straddle this sort of boundary of dead and alive. By themselves, they don't replicate. They don't do much. They're almost like rocks. So, are they alive or are they dead? But it's actually a sort of mix of both. And how I like to see it is hepatitis B is like a seed. By itself, just left alone, it doesn't do anything. It's not alive. It doesn't burn energy or anything like that. But once it's in a certain environment, then it'll start to sprout and grow and create more. It grows up to be something alive. So this is how I think about hepatitis B and indeed all viruses. So if you think about, use this analogy, then we can start talking about what happens during an infection. So when someone is exposed to hepatitis B, comes through their blood. So you essentially have these seeds in your blood, and they find its way to the liver. It is there where the soil, the conditions are exactly right for this seed to germinate and create sprouts and roots. And these roots, in this analogy, is basically the cccDNA, the very stable sort of form of the virus that makes its way into our cells and allows the virus to sprout and produce more of itself. As you can see here, you have trees with more seeds in them, and these can go on to infect other cells. The trees also produce other proteins associated with hepatitis B, and in this case, the leaves I've represented surface antigen. And this is the thing we're trying to get rid of. This is the marker we're trying to get rid of when we're trying to cure hepatitis B. And so what happens from a single infected cell, you produce more virus, and those viruses go on to infect neighboring cells. And by the end, you have a liver that's full of infected cells. Everything is producing all of this virus. And what you have in the blood is a whole lot of hepatitis B DNA that represents the virus, as well as surface antigen. And now the trees themselves don't really affect the liver cells, the soil. It can remain there in relative harmony. So even though you're producing all of this virus, all of this surface antigen, you don't actually get liver disease. You have no symptoms or very little symptoms of the virus infection. That is until the immune system starts to recognize that, hey, these trees aren't supposed to be here. And the way the immune system works is trying to get rid of the cells that have the virus in them. By killing these cells, what you do is damage the liver, but you reduce the amount of virus DNA that's in the cell because you're getting rid of a lot of these cells that support the virus replication. Over time, you get rid of the majority of cells with infections. However, because this surface antigen is around, what it does is hide the virus-infected cells from the immune response. So it sort of covers up its windows. You can't quite find all of the cells that have an infection in them. And so what happens is the immune system dies away, and this allows the virus to spread once more, and you have an increase in virus load in the blood. Then there's a seesawing effect. Now, because there's so many cells that are infected, the immune system kicks in again, and you get cycles and cycles of this liver damage, and that's what generates this scar tissue formation, this fibrosis that's happening in the liver, and maybe cirrhosis. And this increases the risk of liver disease and liver cancer. So when you get a blood test, you can sort of start to draw these parallels with what's happening in this sort of model of an infection. So if you look at hepatitis B DNA, that's a measure of how many seeds are being released into the blood. The surface antigen, as I said before, is this protein, this product that is produced by the infected cells, but isn't actually the infectious part. It can't spread the infection. Anti-surface antibodies are essentially a way to show that you have protection or a cure. The ALTs represent the active level of clearance of those infected cells. And the E antigen status just allows you to say if you're early on in the infection or later on in the infection. So now we've built this model, now we get to talk about treatments and cures. The current treatments that we have are like a spraying sort of crop duster, where we can spray in some sort of pesticides or something like this, and these take the form of entecavir, tenofovir, or TAF. And so this stops the growth of those seeds, but it doesn't do anything to the roots or the leaves. So people will stay surface antigen positive, but HBV DNA negative. And what this does is stop new cells from being infected and those trees from spreading. It also prevents a lot of liver damage. So this reduces the HBV DNA. However, the infection and surface antigen are still present. So if you stop the treatment, as shown in this diagram, you get those trees producing seeds again, and you get that spread of the virus. So in summary, just to explain what's happening now, the disease and treatment, the chronic hepatitis B causes liver cirrhosis and cancer through this cycle where the immune system recognizes those infected cells. That inflammation causes liver damage when the immune system targets these cells. As a result, the virus decreases, but it persists at low levels, so that when that immune system dies down and new virus infection happens, you get a continuing cycle of that chronic inflammation causing liver injury and liver cancer. And what we want to do with this treatments that we have at the moment is just to interrupt that cycle by stopping this new infection, and so preventing that liver disease of chronic inflammation, because you don't get new cells being infected. But what we really want to do is cure. We want to escape this cycle by essentially targeting these virus-infected cells and stopping the persistence of this virus in the liver. The way we go about this is most likely not going to be a single therapy broad approaches that both industry and scientists, research scientists, are using to cure hepatitis B. And the first one is targeting cccDNA directly. So attacking the problem exactly at the roots and stopping and converting these infected cells into uninfected cells. And there are multiple ways to do this. There's gene editing technologies. So this targets DNA. You may have heard of gene therapies in other conditions where we can actually use it to target the virus. And this essentially homes in on the virus DNA and cuts it up like molecular scissors. This is one of the most recent winners of the Nobel Prize is developing these technologies. And there are a couple of early phase research going on in this sort of field. We've also got epigenetic silencing, and this is a different way of inactivating the cccDNA. The same way that the body turns off genes that it doesn't need. For example, if you're a liver cell, you don't need the genes that are needed for skin cells or hair cells. So the body turns off those genes. We can use that machinery to do the same thing to cccDNA. Turn it off and so lock it away forever. And there are several preclinical trials as well as phase 1 trials underway with these sort of technologies. The problem with some of these technologies is being able to get to every single infected cell. If you leave one out, this can be the one that spreads. So we need multiple ways of targeting the virus infected cells. The second way I'm going to talk about is suppressing the virus proteins. And this is a little easier, not targeting the DNA, which represents or is very similar to human DNA. The plus side of targeting the virus proteins is it's quite different from our human proteins. So there's a bit more selectivity. There's been plenty of research into silencing RNAs or antisense oligonucleotides. So this is a technology that stops the virus from producing RNA, and these are the precursors for proteins. So if you can't produce RNA, then the virus is unable to produce more of itself. And so there are several, I've put in bold, phase 3 trials that are going on, and these mean they're very close to getting into the clinic to be able to treat patients without being in a trial. But there are several more in the pipeline as well. There have also been research into what are called NAPs, and these target the surface protein, these leaves, from being released and being transported within the cell. There are also CAMs, so capsid assembly modulators, and these are ways of altering the shell of these seeds so that they're unable to infect new cells or even be produced by infected cells as well. Again, there are several phase 2 trials happening. Finally, there's an approach of activating our existing immune response, stop it from being blinded by surface antigen, those leaves, but really increasing the rate of immune responses to really clear all of the infected cells, because that's what our immune response is designed to do. We have evolved to do this. So we have approaches called therapeutic vaccines. So your vaccines that are preventing infections. So you inject people with a hepatitis B vaccine, and you produce antibodies that help protect you. Therapeutic vaccines are when you already have the infection, but you use the vaccine to stimulate those same responses and induce those antibodies and other sort of immune cells being activated again. And I've only put here in the majority a lot of phase 2 trials, some phase 1, but there are, this list is so long I couldn't fit it on the slide. We've also got what's called TLR8 agonists. So this is a way of sparking up the immune response in general. And monoclonal antibodies. So this is a way of producing antibodies outside of the body and giving it to patients themselves to help their immune system along a bit. Again, I've only put in really phase 2 modalities, but there are many phase 1 candidates as well. We also have checkpoint inhibitors. So this is a way that the body regulates the immune response. And if we overcome that break, we can start to activate the immune response as well. So there's a lot of things happening at the moment. How can you keep up to date with all of these things that are happening? Well, I usually use this drug watch page that's been constantly updated by the Hepatitis B Foundation in the US, and it's what I use to keep up to date with upcoming treatments and in clinical trials. Really easy to use, and the URL is just there. And another way to stay informed is hepbcommunity.org. This is a forum that I established, and it's a way of connecting the scientific community, and clinicians to the affected community, and also the affected community to share information amongst themselves about what's going on, how do I navigate these systems, and where can I find support and help. So we've got a forum of experts to help people in the community, including scientists, health experts. We've got some lawyers, we've got some pharmacists, all sorts of people. And this really is a resource for affected community, knowing that they can get access to expert advice, knowing that other people share the same experiences as them. As someone who's been diagnosed with hepatitis B, I know at the start of just being diagnosed, it can be quite lonely and not like you can talk to anyone about it. And so this provides a space for people to talk about that and that avoid that stigma that's associated just in the community. It's also a winning resource for health professionals who can learn from other specialists, but also know the concerns and misinformations and other issues that stop access to care in the community. They can also refer to patients towards this site so that they have some support outside of consults. And for researchers, it helps us understand the issues that people face and require addressing. And this means that there's new research directions that are really there to help people affected by hepatitis B. We also have this platform to advertise studies and recruit participants as well, so people can get engaged directly there. So over the last 3 years of Hep B Community, we've supported more than 1,500 members from around the world. There are a lot of posts and a lot of page views each month. We've just got on-demand conversations with different experts and just other people with hepatitis B. We also run regular research showcases where we invite researchers from across the world, from all different disciplines, in particular for cure research, and we encourage them to share their research and start those conversations. And we award cash prizes for the best conversations that are happening, the best questions, and the best posts. We continue to build awareness and grow the community, and we're in the midst of supporting multiple languages. We do already have Chinese speakers, Vietnamese speakers, Spanish speakers, French speakers on the forum already, but we're trying to incorporate automated translation as well to make sure that the barriers to engagement with each other and building community are as low as possible. So what can you do from here? Stay informed through the forum, through Drug Watch, through various workshops that the World Hepatitis Alliance runs. Pass that information to other people. Start talking about it. Start advocating for hepatitis B, because if we stay silent, nothing will change. So I encourage you all to be an advocate in your space where you can. So that is the end of my talk, and I'm really happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. That was absolutely brilliant. I mean, and for me, somebody who finds Hep B really, as you said, complicated, it really helped to it was a fantastic way to really understand the different terminology, but also the different stages. We've got quite a few questions that are coming in already. I just wanted clarification. I just wanted to ask you one question.
Yeah.
In terms of, you talked about the 3 different approaches to cure. How are the different, how are they, are the different compounds in development, how are they administered? So, I mean, I know with Hep C it's just pills. So how is it for these different things that you've talked about?
Yeah, a lot of them will be subcutaneous injection. So
Okay.
these are sort of the more direct ways of providing drugs to the body, because it becomes very difficult through oral administration, through pills and things, because I mean your body's designed to break down anything you
Yeah.
eat, right? And so there's a lot of technical things that need to be done to make sure that the drug actually survives that process and is absorbed appropriately. We're still in those development phases. We know that we scaling up to 250 million people, 300 million people worldwide. A subcutaneous injection is not
No.
ideal, but this, as with Hep C, with the Hep C field, these are the starts, these are the steps we all need to go through to get towards that
Yeah.
cure for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the other thing, just for me to note, was I was unaware of the 3 different approaches, and the amount of work that's happening behind the scenes. So I think that the information you've given in terms of keep on top of this, really
Yeah,
important, really important.
yeah.
We've got a lot
And
of
I need
questions.
to just sort of
No, go
say
on.
some these sort of 3 approaches are not mutually exclusive. So there are some approaches that some therapies that actually simultaneously
Do
uh,
all.
do have dual approaches. So some of those, say ASOs or siRNAs, will have immunomodulating effects as well, for example.
Brilliant. Well, we have got some questions in the Q&A box. There's one on the top I wanted to start with, but I wanted to say to everyone in the audience, if you want to ask a question and speak up, please just put your hand up. I can't see you, but Ben will give me a shout, please, Ben, and let us know that someone's got their hand up. But I wanted to start with this first question that Dee's put in, because I think this comes up a lot. Many of the scientific research or papers are now getting rid of, or at least trying to get rid of, the term functional cure. And I remember last year it being discussed at ASLD. Instead, they're saying sustained HBsAg, undetectable, or similar terminologies. What's your
How's
view, and how is it going to affect the understanding of the communities?
Yeah, I think this has always been a complicated issue. The underlying biology uh, is difficult for outsiders to
Yeah,
understand. And so when we're talking within the field, we want to know exactly what you mean by a cure. Is it, get rid of all the CCC DNA? Is it just locking away the virus, even though there is surface antigen? Is it surface antigen loss? And so when we're in the field, we try to talk very specifically about particular things that we're trying to achieve. Now, when that leaks out into the non-specialist sort of field, this gets really hard to understand, and
yeah,
I can understand that people get turned off by, oh, a functional cure, but what does that mean? Is there a dysfunctional cure? And, there are also terms like partial cure, sterilizing cure, all of these sorts of things. And so all of these different flavors of cure can be very daunting. And so this is something we need to, I think, keep discussing as a field. Is it appropriate for us to have one language in the specialist field, and then once we know exactly what we're aiming for, just call it cure in the more public facing sort of side. These are the things we need to talk about. And also we need to involve the affected community and all stakeholders to really say what, so we're all on the same page about this. And so it's an ongoing conversation.
Yeah, and a complicated one. We've got a couple of hands up at the minute. Enoch, are you there? I can't see any hands. Let me see. Ben, are you there, Enoch?
Yeah, Enoch, I've unmuted you, but if Enoch's not ready, we could maybe go to Artemis, who has their hand up.
Yep, Artemis.
Also muted or
also muted.
Yeah.
Hello?
Oh,
yeah,
hello.
Can hear you.
Yes, I'm getting you.
Yes, we can hear you too.
Yeah, this is Atumas from South Sudan, the co-founder and the executive director for Support the Needy Initiative. We are working on hepatitis elimination projects. We do advocacy, and then we also do awareness to combat the negative narratives and so forth. We are members of the World Hepatitis Alliance. Then that's why I'm always attending these meetings. I have something to ask. Yeah, there is this narrative, like mostly in the context of South Sudan. You find the traditional sector, they got some hubs, and sometimes when these hubs are administered to people who are suffering from hepatitis B, you find when they are tested and then the virus doesn't appear. So I'm just asking to inquire whether it is a cure or it's something that is just trying to minimize, but then it remains in the body. Because we are people who work in the community and these questions are ever there. So that's why I'm saying, let me find out. So when we get in the community, I think we'll be able to give appropriate answers to what the community members might be asking from us for clarification. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Artemis, for your question about herbal sort of remedies like this. I think I mean that's interesting, and I'd like to sort of understand a bit more about what exactly goes into these herbal concoctions to lower the hepatitis B DNA or whether that's clearance of the antigens. So we in the scientific literature have quite a few studies that are studying these herbal sort of compounds that are derived from these sort of treatments. And we first have to test them to see their real efficacy within these very controlled conditions, because it gets very complicated because a lot of people are taking a lot of things, and it may be one thing and not the other thing, and this sort of thing. This is why we need to do these very controlled studies to make sure that, one, it's safe, and this is our very number one priority in developing drugs. It's no use having a drug that decreases the health of people. And so we know that a lot of we know some herbal remedies are actually, when taken in high levels, are actually damaging the liver, either by themselves because of the concoction or what they're being dissolved in. In a lot of countries and a lot of practices, they are dissolved in things like alcohol. And so if you're taking a lot of alcohol, that can damage your liver. And when you damage your liver, you actually do decrease the amount of hepatitis B DNA that's being produced, because you're somehow targeting some cells, at least, that are producing the virus. So we've got to be really sure that they're safe, and we do the tests to make sure that we have what is the active compound within that mixture of things that herbal remedies sort of represent. Once we can sort of isolate that, then we can just give that single sort of compound. And indeed, a lot of drugs have been developed through this pathway of seeing that there's some effects with these herbal remedies, and then really defining what is the active compound, and making sure that it's separated from anything else that can be harmful for people. So these are sort of promising leads to some extent, but we've got to make sure that they're safe.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Safety is really, really important. Right, we've got a lot of more and more hands coming up now. So Musa, are you there? Musa, I can see your hand up. Yes.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
A ver,
Bonjour.
good afternoon. It's still morning
Buenas
here.
tardes.
Todavía
es la
mañana
aquí.
Wonderful
Merci
Gracias
de
por
cette,
esta excelente
My name is
programme.
Musa Alhaji Shehu.
La presentación. Mi
I
nombre es
currently
Musa
reside in
Alhaji.
Gambia,
Shehu.
Estoy en
J'habite en
Gambia.
Gambie,
MRC unit.
Estoy en la
dans la
unidad
I have
de
a
MRC.
community organization
Nous
back
Tengo
avons
in
una
une
Nigeria,
organisation
organización
communautaire
comunitaria
where we
en
do
Nigeria,
au
en
Nigeria
donde
demand creation for hepatitis,
estamos
and
où nous avons
buscando
demandé la
una,
occasionally
création
we
pour
also
l'hépatite
offer
et
mass
hablando
occasionnellement,
sobre la
hepatitis.
nous
hepatitis y
faisons le
haciendo
dépistage
tal
pour les
mensaje para la
hépatites.
hepatitis.
Concerns
Tengo
Et
dos
j'ai deux
that I will frame as
preocupaciones
questions.
que las voy a
que je vais
colocar como
inscrire sous la forme de
preguntas.
questions.
in infection rate
Hay
Il y a
sub-Saharan Africa.
tasa de
dans l'Afrique
infección
subsaharienne,
tan
il y a une
alta
augmentation, spécialement au
en
Nigeria.
Nigeria.
Adults
La
Et
infección
les
entre
infections entre les
adultos
adultes continuent à
continúa
augmenter
subiendo a pesar de la
malgré la
vacuna.
vaccination.
concern is that
Mi
Ma question, c'est
preocupación
elimination
es
strategy
la
la
estrategia de
focus
stratégie d'élimination
eliminación
vertical
va viser
está enfocada
la
en la
transmission
transmisión
verticale,
vertical,
but those vaccine and
mais
then
ce
the
pero
vaccin
subsequent vaccine for the
y
et
luego
les
la
différentes
primera
vaccinations pour les enfants
adult, we
vacuna
focus
et pour
on
les
para
adultes,
el niño
at
y luego
risk
nos
adults.
enfocamos en los
So
et
looking
adultos en
at
les adultes à
the
riesgo.
risque.
way
Así que
the
viendo
infection is spreading,
Et
la manera
especially
en
in
que
the
cette
se
infection au rythme
high-risk
está
que l'infection
areas,
ampliando la
augmente
what are
infección
the
en
dans
estas
les
real,
parties
áreas,
endémiques,
real strategies
quelles sont
¿cuáles
les
for
serían las
stratégies vraiment pour
controlling
estrategias
this
reales para
contrôler
controlar
transmission
cette
among
esta
transmission
adults?
transmisión
entre les
entre
adultes?
adultos?
There are very few
Et il y
Hay
a,
muy
work that
pocas,
has been done
hay muy poco
il y a
trabajo
quelques
que se
travaux
ha
qui ont
hecho
été
para
faits,
infection rates among
para
mais
adults.
las tasas
That
de
is
dans les
one.
infección
uns,
entre adultos.
ça c'est la
Esa
première.
sería
The
una. Y
Et
la
availability
numéro deux,
of
segunda
vaccines.
es
la
So
disponibilité
most
des
of the
a las
time,
vaccins.
vacunas. Muchas
adult
de
La
las
plupart
vaccines
du
are not
veces
temps,
las
available.
vacunas para
Even
adultos
when
no
les
están
vaccins pour les
disponibles,
adultes, ils ne sont pas
aun
disponibles.
cuando los
individuals
pacientes
go
o
to
el
Pour les
primary
individus,
individuo
healthcare
vayan
centers
a
pour les
to
los
centres
access
de
the
a las
santé,
vaccine. It's
clínicas de
either not
pour
atención
accéder,
available
primaria.
or it is
ou soit les
strictly
vaccins ne
for
sont pas
the
disponibles, ou
Es,
ils sont
children. And now
strictement
we
pour
are
les
talking
enfants. Et
about
estas
maintenant,
están específicamente para los
maintenant,
the
niños.
therapeutic vaccines.
Entonces
This is
hablamos
one of the
ahora
two
de
thérapeutique
vacunas
trials.
phase 1, phase
terapéuticas
2 et
para
puis
la
le
fase
7.
1 y la fase
Comment est-ce que
2.
ceux-ci
¿Cómo
vont
se
être
van a
disponibles
hacer
with high
pour ces
disponibles
régions?
estas
areas.
vacunas
That's
en
the
Pour
estas
les
second.
zones
áreas
And the
endémiques, ça
final
c'est
tan
la...
question is,
Et la
endémicas? Y
dernière
la
this
question,
research
pregunta
that is
final,
ongoing
esta investigación que está en
with
proceso
regards to therapeutic
con
vaccines,
relación a
are
par
las
there
rapport au vaccin
vacunas,
any of
thérapeutique
this research that is
en
currently
et à
esta
cette
happening in these
investigación
high
está
endemic areas?
ocurriendo en estas
Because you and I
áreas
will agree that
de nivel
we
endémico
have our
tan
own
alto?
peculiarities in terms
Ustedes
of
saben que
genetic
tenemos
makeup, in
nuestras
terms of immune response to
peculiaridades en
diseases,
términos con la
weather
respuesta
conditions, and what have you.
genético,
So, do we
nuestras
have this research
condiciones.
ongoing
Nosotros
in these
tenemos
high
esta
endemic areas?
investigación en
Thank you
seguimiento en
very much for
estas
the wonderful presentation.
alta regiones
Thank
con alto
you.
nivel
I'll
endémico.
try to
Muchas
remember
gracias. Voy
all
a
the
tratar de
questions.
responder
The
todas
first
las
one was
preguntas.
about
La primera era
preventing
acerca de
preventing
tratamiento de
transmission in
prevención
adults.
y de prevenir la transmisión en
I'm not
adultos.
a public health expert,
Yo no soy un
and I
experto
don't
en
know
salud
the
pública,
underlying
no
roots of
sé, no
transmission
conozco
that
las
are
raíces
leading to
subyacentes
this
de
surge
transmisión relacionadas en esta investigación
in adults.
en los adultos,
Adult infections.
en las infecciones de
I'm not sure
adultos.
whether they're acquired
No
adults
estoy
or if that increasing screening for
No sé si se
hepatitis
debe
B is picking it
incrementar
up in
el
adults. I'm not
tamizaje
sure.
para la hepatitis B, no estoy seguro de
That
esto.
said, there are multiple ways of
Hay muchas
controlling
maneras de
these
controlar
things, these transmission
las transmisiones.
events, including
Estos
catch-up
incluyen
vaccination,
vacunación,
sort of programs to start to
programas
protect the community at
para
large, not
proteger
only
a la
the children
comunidad,
just being born, but
no
also
solo
everyone
al recién
in the
nacido, sino que
community.
también para el
There's
adulto en la
universal
comunidad.
screening to make sure
Y
that we
hay
pick
tamizajes
up
universales para
the people who
asegurarnos
are
que podamos encontrar a las
chronically infected
personas
with
que
hepatitis
están
B and
infectados con hepatitis B
engage
crónica
them in
y
care and treatment
comprometerlos en su
where
cuidado
necessary.
y el tratamiento cuando sea necesario.
There are calls for treatment
Hay códigos para
as
el
prevention
tratamiento
for
y hay
transmission.
prevención
So
para
it
la
means that
transmisión.
if you have a high
Eso
viral
quiere
load,
decir que si hay una carga viral
maybe you
alta,
should consider
tal vez
treatment
deberían
so
de
that not
considerar
only do you
tratamiento para que
stop
no
your
solo
disease progression,
detengas
but you
la
lower the virus
progresión de
load
la
in your
enfermedad,
blood enough so that
sino que también
you're at
para
very,
bajar
very
la
low
carga
risk of
viral
transmitting it on. And
o,
these are just a
para
few
determinar
approaches
el
that can be
riesgo
done,
en que
and
estás de
these all
transmisión.
depend on the
Y de eso va
available
a
resources that
depender de los
can be
recursos
brought
que
on
se
within
puedan
each
estar
context and
disponibles
each setting to be
en
able to
ese
do this,
ambiente
which will differ from
que va
each
a
region, I
diferir
think.
en cada región.
The second question I've
La
forgotten
segunda
already.
pregunta, creo que ya se me olvidó.
Anyone going to remind me?
¿Alguien me quiere recordar la segunda pregunta, por favor?
No?
No.
I was actually writing down, I think
Yo
it
las
was around the
estaba
vaccination.
escribiendo. Era con respecto a la
There was definitely
vacunación.
about the vaccination in high endemic
Era
areas.
en las áreas endémicas altas, la
Again,
vacunación.
not a public
Nuevamente,
health expert, so I won't
nuevamente no soy un
sort of
experto en salud
comment on
pública,
that.
pero puedo comentar
And the
algo
third
sobre
one
eso.
was the research
La
being done in
tercera
high
es la
endemic
investigación que se está
countries,
haciendo en los
so
países con un nivel
I'm
endémico
most
alto.
aware of
Yo estoy muy
research
consciente de
occurring
la
indeed in low
investigación
endemic countries such
en los países
and regions
endémicos
such as
y
Europe
regiones,
and, for example, Australia and the
por
US.
ejemplo,
But I
Australia
do
y
know that there are
Estados
some in
Unidos,
higher
pero sí
endemic
sé
countries
que
such as
hay
China
algunas
going on,
como en
and
China que se están
indeed
haciendo
there is push to make
y
sure that
también para
more
asegurarse
people of different backgrounds
que
are
hayan más
involved in
personas
all stages of clinical trials.
que estén.
There is that want within the sort of research sector, but there are
Están
also practicalities
también
of
en el
if
sector de
the infrastructure
investigación
isn't there and the access isn't there.
Y el acceso
In the
no
places
está
that the
ahí en
researchers
los
have
lugares,
pandemic becomes
en,
more difficult, and
entonces
this
se
is
vuelve más
the
difícil.
sort of restrictions of
Hay ciertas
economy take
restricciones en
hold
cuanto a la
instead, and would
economía
rather have some results rather than
y
no results.
quisiéramos tener algunos
Yeah,
These are the
and just
resultados
realities
para
of
esto.
the funding environment.
yeah, and just to remind everybody
Y
that,
solo para
when we're talking about
recordarles a
public health
todos,
response,
cuando
you
hablamos
need
de una
government
respuesta a la
buy-in.
salud
So
pública,
we as
se
community need to be
necesita
lobbying
tener
so that there is a
involucrado
commitment
al
from
gobierno para
our
que
government with an
haya
action plan
involucramiento de los gobiernos con
to
un
ensure
plan de
that there is
acción
this
para
buy-in.
asegurar que ellos estén
And to
involucrados en
remind
esto.
everybody, there are
Y
countries that are
recordarles a
eligible for the
todos que hay
Gavi,
países que
the
están
PNCT.
elegibles
There are
para el
programs
Gavi,
available
hay
that your government
programas
can
que
sign up
los
to,
gobiernos
which
pueden
makes certain
firmar
eligibility. So
y
yes,
los
this is
hacen
not necessarily
elegibles,
for adult, but it's really important
pero
that
es
there is this commitment, because
importante
then that
que
leads
existe el
to
compromiso
further
del
commitment
gobierno
for
y
other
esto lleva
programs.
para mayores compromisos
Slightly
en
off
los
from the
distintos
cure,
programas,
but I think these things need to be in place,
no
because
necesariamente
if
en
and
la
when
cura,
there is a
pero esto
cure,
tiene que
you
estar ahí,
need to have
que cuando
structures
esté
and
la
systems
cura,
already in
tienen que
place.
tener la estructura y el
And that's why it's
sistema
so
ya
important that we don't just sit
funcionando
and
para
wait for a
poder
cure. We actually
hacerlo.
put
Por
the
eso es
structures in place now.
importante, es que
Paul, you've got
primero
your hand up.
empecemos
Have you got a
creando la
question for
estructura.
Thomas?
A ver, Cole, ¿tú tienes una pregunta para Thomas?
Hi,
¿Tienes la
Paul.
mano? Paul,
Yes, can you hear
tienes la
me?
mano
Yes, we can
levantada,
hear
¿me
you.
puedes
Yeah,
escuchar?
thank you very much, Thomas, and
Gracias.
thank you for taking my question. I'd like to know
Pregunta, quisiera
because
saber,
we've known hepatitis B for a long while now.
sabido
What
que
do you
existe la
think has
hepatitis
been the
B desde hace
major
rato. ¿Cuál ha
setback to
sido
getting
el
the kinds
retroceso
of cure
principal
that
para obtener
checks all
una
the boxes
cura?
of cure? What has been the major problem?
¿Cuál ha
And if
sido
I
el
can add a
problema
quick follow-up,
mayor?
you highlighted the
Como tú
challenging
destacaste los
defining what
desafíos en
the
la
cure metrics
definición,
would be. And I'd
¿cómo
like to know
sería la
how
matriz sobre
this
la
is
cura?
unique to hepatitis
Y cómo
B in
esto es
comparison to
específico
other
para la
types of
hepatitis
hepatitis,
B en
whether a
comparación con
similar
otro tipo
standard,
de
adopting a similar
hepatitis.
standard in defining cure for
¿Cómo
whole
vamos a
hepatitis may be easier
definir
to
el
communicate and
estándar?
to achieve.
Tal
Thank you
vez
very much.
si creamos un estándar va a ser más
For
fácil de
the
comunicar.
clinical,
Gracias por la pregunta,
I
Paul.
think really it has
Creo
been
que realmente ha sido
a lack of advocacy and from
una
there
falta
and
de
awareness of
defensoría, de
hepatitis B
actividad o de estar conscientes de la hepatitis B,
that has led to
que
a sort of
esto
chronic
ha llevado
underfunding
a
of
que no haya
hepatitis B research.
suficiente
A
financiamiento
lot of
para la
all of
investigación.
the current treatments
Todos los tratamientos
for hepatitis
actuales
B
para hepatitis B
actually first been developed for
primero se
HIV.
han desarrollado para el
Hepatitis B is
VIH.
actually quite similar
La
to
hepatitis B
HIV
es
in
muy
terms of a particular
similar en
protein,
términos
this
de la
particular protein,
proteína
where
específica
it turns
de
RNA
VIH,
into DNA. It's
donde
called a
convierte el
reverse
ARN
transcriptase.
al ADN,
So both
y
hepatitis B
entonces
and HIV have
ambos,
this
el
protein.
VIH
It
y la
turns out
hepatitis B
drugs
tienen
have
esta
demonstrated
proteína
to
y hay
really
ciertas
work
drogas
work
como
well for both
interferones funcionan
HIV
bien
and
para
hepatitis
VIH y,
viruses. So
y los
really,
virus de la hepatitis.
hepatitis
Así
before
que
a lot of
realmente
these trials,
antes de estos
there was very
ensayos
little research
había muy
into
poca
hepatitis B
investigación para la hepatitis B
specific treatment.
específicamente para buscarle
And it's
tratamientos.
only now is that
Y es solo hasta ahora
sort of growing and
que
accelerating
se ha crecido
the agents that are being
interés
sort of explored
y
as
se han explorado los
potential
distintos,
cures.
las distintas curas
I mean,
potenciales.
that advocacy that
Esa
HIV has
defensa,
been
ese
able to
activismo en hepatitis
bring
B
on and
ha
make sure
podido
that they are
promover
not
y
ignored
asegurarse
has
que
been
no se
amazingly
ignoren
effective.
las
So,
personas con hepatitis B y esto
for
ha sido efectivo.
hepatitis B and hepatitis C, the
Para
amount
hepatitis
of
B y para la hepatitis
R&D
C, la cantidad
spending
de,
is
Le
maybe
niveau de
de
recherche et développement
10
des
to
investigación y
1% of
desarrollo
HIV,
es
even though HIV
10% en
affects 10%
comparación al de
probablement aux
VIH,
alentours de
a
1%
pesar de que el
que les
VIH
contactés au
afecta a
VIH,
menos
of
même si la quantité de
personas.
personnes atteintes par le
Entonces,
VIH est
noise
moindre
that the
que dans le cas
la
de
cantidad de
l'hépatite.
ruido
communities
que
make,
las
the affected
comunidades
communities make, and
hagan
not taking no for an answer
y que no
has been
reciban un no
Il me
como
semble que nous
respuesta
devons
ha sido muy
continuer
efectivo
à
para
renforcer notre
transmitir y
activité,
asegurarse
nos
the
efforts de
community's
sensibilisation.
needs are met.
que se
And
cumplan
this
las
is sort of the
necesidades
thing
de las
we're really trying to
comunidades.
build up
Y
with the
esto es
World
algo
Hepatitis
sobre
Et que
lo
nous
cual
ne baissons pas les
estamos
bras, que
tratando
nous
de
ne
sort of
construir con la
désespérons pas de la situation
WHA
actuelle.
y otras
HEP
organizaciones
community,
en
La
las
lutte doit se
comunidades
poursuivre.
think together
con hepatitis.
we can
Trabajando
really make a
juntos
difference if
podemos
we
hacer una
present
diferencia.
Parce que nous pouvons et nous
Presentamos
pourrons
esta
faire une différence
causa
si
común
nous continuons
y
à propager le
frente
message
unido.
de l'importance de la lutte contre l'hépatite.
Again, I've forgotten the
Nuevamente,
second question.
Je crois avoir
nuevamente
oublié
se me
la
olvidó la
seconde
segunda
question qui
pregunta.
Do you
était
want to, Paul,
incluse.
does that answer, or would you like to
Paul,
very quickly,
eso
because I'm
te
conscious of the time.
responde.
I'll just ask the second part of your question again.
Yes, it's about the definition of cure, whether letting something that cuts across all the hepatitis.
Again, a lot of the current frameworks have actually
En
come
los
from
marcos de
HIV.
trabajo
the
que se
Nombre de
hacen
cadres
con
de compréhension de la maladie
el
et
término de
d'obtention
cura
de
funcional
fonctionnelle proviennent également du VIH.
y cura esterilizante se están utilizando y tal vez vamos a buscar otro concepto.
À l'hépatite B, que ça doit encore être construit.
There's an awful lot of questions
Hay
in the
muchas
box. So I guess
preguntas.
there's two things really. If I pull out one, we've got 4 minutes. Unfortunately, time has just whizzed past. So, I mean, I don't think there's one around when will a functional cure be available to people living with hepatitis B. Maybe there's more in the pipelines. Is that something that we can do a little guess on? So it says it's great to see the many different drugs in clinical trials. How long do clinical trials take? That's a really important point. And when could functional cure be available to people living with hepatitis B? That's a good one to end on.
Yeah, this is a great question, and maybe one thing that I can't really answer because it really depends on what the kind of modality of that treatment is. So we've actually picked the sort of endpoints of the loss of surface antigen as our marker of cure because it is something that happens fairly quickly and we can do a readout straight away. The underlying thing that we're trying to do is stop people from getting liver cancer or liver cirrhosis. The thing there is that it may take 10, 20, 30 years for that to even be detectable because that's the sort of timeline that these liver diseases, chronic liver diseases, occur. And so that's why we've used that surface antigen loss to really say, okay, we're curing it. But just to make clear that this doesn't necessarily mean the disease sort of benefits are seen until we really measure them down the road. That taken into account, there are great videos that we can probably send out links to from the International Coalition for the Elimination
De la
of
Coalición
Hepatitis B,
Internacional de
Hepatitis
Hepatitis B,
video series
y ellos han hecho
exactly
historias en videos
answering these sort
para
of questions.
responder este
How
tipo
long
de
does the
preguntas.
actually take
¿Qué
and what's the
tanto
process?
tarda
So
un ensayo
that's a
clínico?
longer answer than
Esa es una respuesta más
I'm allowed to
larga
give here, but
que no la voy a dar
please
aquí, pero
watch it
por
in your own
favor
time
vean
Donc,
estos
n'hésitez pas à
videos que
regarder
están
ce type de vidéos,
exactly what
disponibles
the process
vous en aurez
is.
l'occasion.
para
Now,
conocer todo el
when will
proceso.
a cure
¿Cuándo
be
va a estar
available
disponible
to
una
Quand
cura
un
people in
traitement
the
sera-t-il
community?
disponible
para
pour
With
les
these
personnes dans la
compartirla con la
communauté?
comunidad?
phase 3 trials.
En
Once
estas
they have
ensayos de la
completed
fase 3, una vez
safety
estén
une fois qu'ils ont
completos
pris
y
ça
sean
et
seguros
these
que
will
la
de
start
sécurité et la
compartir,
surveillance
trickling
est
into
établie,
entonces va a resultar en
countries in the next
para
few
compartirlos en los
years.
países
ce sera
en unos
disponible
pocos
dans les
años.
pays dans
For
les prochaines
everyone,
No son
années.
these
curas para
only
todos,
induce
solo
a cure in a
para
subset of patients,
asegurar un
Ce sera
particularly
d'abord
subconjunto
those
de
mis
with
en œuvre
pacientes,
low
dans
surface
un
antigen
aquellos
sous-ensemble de
con
already.
un nivel más bajo de antígeno de
But
la superficie,
this
pour
is
des
the
raisons de
start
pero
sécurité,
of
mais c'est
ese
le
es el
being
début,
able
inicio
to treat
c'est
everyone.
de
la phase
para
As
poder
we've
initiale
seen
tratar
in
a
the hepatitis
todos.
C
Y
space,
como hemos visto en el
this
espacio de
is
la hepatitis
avancer plus
C,
a
largement
road
un
that
traitement.
esta es
cures
la
have to take is
ruta
little by little.
para ir curando poco a
Et c'est
poco.
comme ça que ça a fonctionné dans le cas de l'hépatite C
Creo
également.
que esa
Peu à
es
peu,
la manera
ces essais sont
en
étendus
que
et la diffusion est
sucede el
mise en œuvre
progreso, el
pour
avance.
un nombre accru de personnes.
Que está sucediendo y lo que
Alors, nous
hemos
savons que dans le
aprendido en
cadre de
la hepatitis
l'hépatite
C,
C,
una
nous
vez
l'avons
se
vu
empieza
dans
a
son cas,
difundir,
qu'une fois
se
que
va
c'est
luego más rápido.
disponible, ça le devient
Entonces,
pour beaucoup plus de monde assez rapidement.
así que mis palabras es que una
Donc, nous
vez
espérons effectivement que cette
bola
boule de
ya
neige
empezó a
commence
rodar
à
en
rouler
unos
en ce qui
años.
concerne
Yo
l'hépatite
sé que a
B.
veces suena como mucho tiempo, pero ya se está
Et
moviendo y
il semble
antes no, así
qu'effectivement,
que esas son
les choses
noticias
commencent à
fantásticas. Ya se nos
avancer,
acabó el
à bouger.
tiempo.
Nous en
Creo que
sommes
lo
à
que
la fin de
podemos
notre
decir es
webinaire.
que hay
Il y a
algunas
également
preguntas
il
y
y a encore des
vamos a
questions dans
asegurar
la
que
section de
las
questions-réponses.
respondamos.
N'hésitez pas à nous les adresser
Algunas ya las hemos
par
dado
courrier électronique.
respuestas, así que quiero
Et
agradecerle a
la
Thomas.
de
Gracias.
l'Alliance nous
Yo sé que ya es hora de
apporterons une
irse a
réponse
dormir en
en bien
Australia,
écrit,
así que
en particulier à vous,
realmente,
docteur Thomas, étant donné
personalmente
l'heure
te lo
tardive
agradezco y a
et
mí
en
me
Australie.
ayudó mucho. Espero
Ça
que
nous
para
a
todos
aidé, et
también.
moi aussi,
Fantástica tu
énormément à
explicación.
comprendre
Gracias a todos los que
dans
participaron.
cet
Les quiero
environnement de la
recordar,
recherche.
como Tomás
Le
lo
traitement
dijo, hay
fonctionnel
una
pour l'hépatite B.
hoja sobre la cura sobre hepatitis B que
L'Alliance
ha
mondiale de
preparado
l'hépatite a préparé
WHA
un document,
y la
une
alianza
feuille de
también
données en la
ha
matière
compartido un artículo que se va a publicar
que vous
sobre la
pouvez
falta
utiliser pour informer
de
autrui
ensayos clínicos en
par rapport
África
à ces
y
espoirs ou
queremos que
ces
esto suceda
processus
más
de
en la
recherche.
región. Si ustedes tienen oportunidad, por
Si vous
favor,
avez
si están
l'occasion,
en línea, hay una pequeña
n'hésitez pas,
encuesta. Si
restez en ligne
tienen
parce
tiempo
que
para
nous allons
completarla, se
partager,
los
voilà, je vais
agradezco.
partager
Muchas
un
gracias a
petit
todos por
questionnaire
participar.
en
Gracias,
relation avec ce
Tomás.
webinaire pour que vous puissiez fournir
Así que
votre
quiero
rétroalimentation et que nous puissions
época
améliorer
del año,
les
así que
séances suivantes.
felices fiestas para todos.
Ce
Y
webinaire est
mi
le
último
dernier pour
webinar
moi en
como
tant que président.
presidente, así que ha sido un placer
Laissez-moi à dire
dirigir estos webinars. Tengan
que
un
vous
final de
souhaite à toutes et à
año
tous
muy
un
bueno y espero
excellent
verlos
Noël
el
Thank
año
you
que
for
vous
coming.
entrante.
célébrez et nous nous
Muchas
retrouverons
gracias por
l'année
incluirme.
prochaine.
Gracias.